Hello, BookTube. Well, it's Friday, and that usually means Friday Reads here on BookTube. Some iteration of Friday Reads, some iteration of the idea that once in a regular while we check in with each other, we see what we're doing. Reading wise, how good a reading week has it been? How bad a reading week has it been? Have there been any real standout moments? Any really good experiences? What is ongoing? I think a lot of people do this as a video version of Goodreads, a record basically for themselves, but I love it. I love it. I love these kinds of videos. There are plenty of people who do it on Fridays, plenty of people who do it on the weekends, plenty of people who do it on Monday. And the one worry that I have about these check-in videos is that prospective people to BookTube, new people to BookTube, will look at this environment and think, well, I work 2 jobs and I have friends and a family, so I don't get that much reading done. I love reading. It's an active part of every day, but I couldn't make that kind of a video. So maybe I don't belong on BookTube. That is absolutely not true. Absolutely not true. You are perfectly welcome on your Friday reads or your weekend reads or your Monday reads to just tell us how your reading life is going. It can be the same book for 2 months in a row. I won't care. I'm sure that anyone else won't care. Get that idea straight out of your head. All that these are for are just to touch base with your reading life. And I don't always do these. I should do a version of these every Friday. I never know quite what to do. I'm not a typical case, even on BookTube, because I don't do anything but read. And I read awful fast, and I read for a lot longer than in the day than you have available to you. 10 hours sometimes much more than that. Like, for instance, in the last week, day after day after day after day was bitter cold blowing rain. So neither I nor my tiny little dog wanted to go anywhere or do anything. That's a lot of reading time. So it's not really possible for me to run down. It wouldn't be helpful for me to run down the whole list of what I thought of every book. So I never know quite what to do, and that's just taking into account what I've read, not what I'm going to read, which is every book in the world. So my reading remit, for those of you who are new to this channel, is new releases in the 15 or 16 genres in the American book market that interest me. That's a lot of books per week, a lot of books per month, and that's every single one of those books that's coming out. I at least want to read, whether I get to it or not. But I always manage to come up with something on Friday for Friday Reads that might interest you, so I should do these every week. So we're just going to go through. I put a bunch of books together that I've either read or I'm going to read that I can show you, just in case it's interesting. No one guarantees that Friday Reads will be interesting. So the first one, I don't think this is out yet. I think this is a good way off. This is by David Potter, and it's called Master of Rome. And it's a new life of Julius Caesar, the first full-length standalone life of Julius Caesar in a few years. This is a much-covered character. Obviously, there have been more books written about Julius Caesar than almost any other human being. I might think that is especially galling. I have Gaius Julius Caesar and I go back a long way. He was a complete fraud. In every way that he is revered by the Dude Bros, he was a complete fraud. But nevertheless, he's a fascinating figure and also one of those rare figures on whom the hinge of history turns. I guess I haven't read this yet. I have it, but I haven't read it. And my first reaction is, for David Potter, what can you possibly do? What can you possibly do with this that will be in any way even remotely interesting? And then I remember Stacy Schiff. That will be my example until I'm old and gray. My example will be Stacy Schiff when she announced that her next book was going to be about Cleopatra. You'd think I'd have learned that lesson about Stacy Schiff, because I remember her announcing publisher announcing that her next book was going to be about Benjamin Franklin, about whom thousands and thousands of books have been written, and I've read them all. You'd think that I would have learned my lesson about her from that announcement, because her book on Benjamin Franklin is terrific. But I didn't. I saw that announcement about Cleopatra, and I said, oh, come on. Oh, come on. The amount that we know for sure about Cleopatra would fit on 3 loose-leaf pages, neatly written. You're going to write a book about that when 1 million people have written a book on that subject before you. How will you make it even bearable, much less interesting? And her Cleopatra book is great. So I want to avoid that kind of eating crow. This could be great. You never know. It could be. I will wait and give it a try. I will see. We will see whether or not it is. All right. This next one, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about this. Oh crap! I put it on this list. I'm not sure that. Okay, I'd better not. A well-known, beloved author has a forthcoming book on writing, the writing life, writing routine, whatnot, and I have an advanced. I don't know if I'm able to talk about it, so we'll skip that one. We've got plenty more to go. Like, for instance, this thing here. This is by Jenny Gautet, and it is a Regency romance. It's The Bachelors of Blackstones, and it's called A Gentleman's Reckoning. And I'm going to read this today. The description is very intriguing. A Raquel, a party boy in London, is ruined by a titled nobleman because he overheard that nobleman's horribly duplicitous dealings. The man is ruined, he's shunned from society, he's broken out of the world, and he burns with revenge. He wants to revenge himself on that nobleman and has lodged himself in disguise in the employ of one of that nobleman's estates in order to gather the information he needs to bring him down. Now, the whole tension here will be what happens to that singular Ahab-like devotion if love enters into the picture. What happens then? And that as a premise, I like that very much. That very seldom happens in commercial romance novels. So we'll see. I mean, this is part of a series, Bachelors of Blackstones. I don't know that I've ever read any of these. I'm not quite sure how I came across this book, the ebook of it. But I'll read it and give it a try. Then we have Philip Hoare. I've read a lot of Philip Hoare's books. I read them and always expect that they are going to spark, that they're going to ignite. Because so many of them have just a great premise, a great idea to them. And most of them, to help a lot with me, are nautically related. And yet they never quite do. I like them a lot, but there's just a slight element of vague pettifogging that creeps in and eventually takes over the narrative. And so I can't, it's not that I'm not recommending Philip Hoare. I do recommend his books, but I'm always waiting for one of his books to ignite. And so far, none of them has. I've read everything by this author. And he has a new book coming out that I have not read yet. I'm going to give it a try. First of all, it's only tangentially about things nautical. And maybe that will facilitate the spark that I'm looking for. This is instead about William Blake. William Blake and the Sea Monsters of Love. How's that for a title? This is a study of William Blake. And I haven't read one of those this year yet. I don't think I read one last year either. This is an obstacle in a couple of ways to me. Philip Hoare, he has credit in the Bank of Steve. He writes very good books. It's just there's this air of disappointment about them. I always keep waiting for him to go up that one notch in his books, and they never quite ignite for me. That's obstacle number one. And obstacle number two is that is also true for William Blake. He's a canonical poet who I've never managed to fall in love with. And here this book is the two of them meeting. So we'll see. That will either guarantee the failure of this thing or, for all I know, make it a favorite read for the year. You're not paying attention at all, are you? You're paying attention to my adorable little dog. He's decided to just stare at you over my shoulder. We will see. We'll see what this is like. I have the advanced copy, so I will be getting to it. Then this next one, I liked this book. And I know I shouldn't. I know there are a whole bunch of reasons why I shouldn't advertise it, why I shouldn't encourage this author, but I liked it. Sometimes you just can't help that. The author is Andrew Klavan, who you might know from the Daily Wire. You might also know him from his murder novels, his crime novels, which are quite good. He had one last year. He has a whole bunch of personal and political opinions that he espouses. I'm not sure how many of them he believes, and I don't like any of them. Just get that out right in front, right away. Association with the Daily Wire is almost unsupportable in civilized company. It's almost enough to turn your back on someone in a crowded parlor. Almost. It's pretty bad. But he wrote a new book, and it wasn't a crime book. It was about murder, but it wasn't it's not a murder mystery. He wrote The Kingdom of Cain, a book about the intertwining of murder and faith, Christian faith. He's a Christian, and this is a Christian book. And its set piece, its opening piece, and its set piece, he looks at 3 signature murders here, but the standout piece in this book is the opening set piece, where he examines the murder of Cain by Abel, or the murder of Abel by Cain, the first murder in Christian mythology. I liked this book. I like the way this author writes. It's just an example, another example of what we talk about on this little corner booktube all the time, which is, when and to what extent do you separate the art from the artist? When do you do that, and to what extent? At what point is the artist so bad that you simply must not read their work? Or does that point ever come? And for me, I think that if I sat with Andrew Klavan and talked with him, I would like him. I know that's not a good yardstick. That's true of some of the most evil people in the world, but I don't know. I don't know quite how to resolve that. If you took his name off this book, if this was Andrew Smith, I would still be saying I really liked it. I wouldn't be overpraising it. I wouldn't be praising it more. I just enjoyed it. And I think, in addition to that, that if you are a Christian, a practicing Christian, well, you're really going to like this book. So, I mean, yeah, there's nothing fire-breathing or stupidly fundamentalist about this. It's actually quite intelligent. So that actually is a recommend. This next one is also a recommend. This is by Dave Hage and Josephine Marcotti, and it's called Sea of Grass. It's a natural history, a study of the Great Plains of America. And I haven't read one of those in 10 or 15 years, maybe more than that. And this is really good. It's all about the ecology. It rightly acknowledges that the Great Plains, in their pristine state, are an unbelievable ecosystem, unbelievably complex. We don't think of it that way. We think of just fields of grass. And so when we think of complex ecosystems, we think of the Everglades or the Amazon. But no, this is an absolute marvel. And there's a lot of that in this book. There's a lot of appreciation like that in this book. If you live on the Great Plains, you've got to go drive 350 miles to your nearest bookstore and get a copy of this book. But even if you don't, it's still amazing. I loved it. Then we have an author that I really like. Again, if it's an author that you like, if the way they put words on the page is something that you really like, well, then you've got a counterweight against anything else, and you've got to decide how important that counterweight is. Some of you will say, readers I've known have said, reading is a desert. 90% of everything is crud. So if I encounter an author whose voice I like, I don't care if they're Attila the Hun. I'm going to read them, because reading is a desert. And I barely ever come across anybody who I like to read. So if I do, I'm not going to care about the artist. I'm going to care about the art. I've known plenty of readers who thought that way. And then there are people who say, well, no, it's contingent case by case. If the book is dumb, then I don't care how good the author is. And this next book is by an author I really like. He won a lot of fans with his book Underland. Oh my. That book did well and also was talked about. People remembered how good it was. The author is Robert Macfarlane, and his new book is largely dumb. It's beautifully written, but it's this. Is the river a river alive? The answer to the title question is no. And scene. See, in many respects, the end of the book. Is there an upside to Trump? Can the Republican Party be saved? Is a river alive? If the question that is the title of your book has a self-evident answer, then what is there left in your book? It turns out in this case there's a lot left. Any of you who've read this author will know that. He's wonderful to read as he just thinks about the natural world. So the fact that the question in the title of this book has an answer, and that the answer is not the answer the author thinks, well, you learn to live with it. I learned to live with it. I don't know where you draw the line. I learned to live with it, and I really like this. Well, it's not his best work, but I really liked it. There was a reread for me, a reread from decades ago. This is Leo D'Amour. This is his book Senatorial Privilege, about the Chappaquiddick cover-up, Senator Kennedy, Ted Kennedy, and the Chappaquiddick disaster, which some of you may be too young to remember. A lot of you... What are you doing, baby? What are you doing back there? Huh? You just sitting there staring at the back of my head? Huh? You want to come down here? There you go. Oh, you could do it. It's just a few inches. You could do it. Oh, you want to go over to your chair? Oh, goodness. Are you going to... Oh. You going to hop over there? Yes. Yeah. All right. This is the reason that we did not have a second Kennedy president. This book, the subject of this book, is that reason. A young politician, good-looking, from an honored family, driving a car drunk at night. Car goes into the water, and the young woman in the car, Mary Jo Kopechne, dies. Because the young politician is able to force his way out of the car and swim to safety, and then sleep on it. Now, and then be connected with this whole thing when the car was slowly filling with water. So if he had tried, let's say, 50% harder to save her life, if he tried at all to save her life, if he tried 50% harder to save her life, if he'd saved himself, got to shore, grabbed a big rock and gone in and tried again, well, she would almost certainly have lived. If he had done his absolute utmost, like a bomb going off, not the polite things that are in the oral record, but like a bomb going off to the nearby houses and said, there's a woman trapped. If he'd done that, maybe. As it is, he went and slept it off and doomed her. And D'Amour's book, I've read a couple of other books on Chappaquiddick over time. I'm, of course, very familiar with Chappie. I'm very, very familiar with it, just as a place, just as you know, an environment. But I've read a number of books about Chappaquiddick since this book came out, and they all put forward different theories, some more outlandish than others. But this is the definitive book, really. Nothing has come forward to really challenge that. And I just happened to find a copy of this just recently, so I viewed that as a nudge from the fates to reread it, so I did. Then the next one is something I've shown you before. I have read it now. It is epic. It is incredible. I cannot recommend it strong enough. It's not out yet, I don't think. It's by James Mills, and it's called In the Days of Billy the Kid. And look at that subtitle. The Lives and Times of Jose Chavez y Chavez, Juan Patron, Martin Chavez, and Eugenio Salazar. No mention of Billy the Kid in the subtitle. That's because this is a lot more. This is the story of Billy the Kid. This is that story, and it sprawls. And it's incredibly detailed and amazingly strong, narratively speaking. But there are a lot of other people involved here. Of course, Billy the Kid was not an alien descended from Arcturus. He was part of a milieu. And this book does a great job with that. This is... Talk about a book to read for June on the Range, BookTube's celebration of all things Westerns. Find it on Amazon. Get your library to pre-order a copy of this. Do whatever you have to. If you are interested in the American West, you're going to want to read this book. What a thing. I'm hoping that I have the Unbound Galley pages, which did not really survive my handling. I'm really hoping that I get a finished copy of this. I'd really like a finished copy of this, but it's a strong recommend. If you're not interested in the subject, this is not going to draw you in because it's very, very detailed. You're going to want to build an interest, I would think, elsewhere. But if you are interested in the subject, you got to read this book. You just got to read this book. And then we have, I am reading crime fiction. I'm reading a whole bunch of 20th century crime fiction. I started out rather innocently with Nero Wolfe by Rex Stout. But then I have been branching out I've been doing a lot of it, and it's just snowballing. I'm doing more and more of it. I don't always like it, but it is. I am loving exploring this whole subgenre. And in addition to reading the Nero Wolfe novels in order, I'm also reading the Lou Archer novels in order by Ross MacDonald. And I was up to The Far Side of the Dollar. Lou Archer is a hard-boiled West Coast detective. Really very different from Nero Wolfe, the character of Nero Wolfe, much closer to the character of Archie Goodwin, Nero Wolfe's on-staff house Lou Archer, basically. And this book puts Lou Archer exactly in the place where you want him. He isn't always there, but he is at his best when he is dealing with people who are radically different than he is socially, not criminally. And here, this is about an institution where at-risk genius children are institutionalized for their own benefit, for their own health, and basically mothballed. And he gets involved with the family of one of those children who went missing from the institution, and the family has just received, at the beginning of the story, they've just received a kidnapping note, a ransom note for that boy. So Archer is immediately involved, but he's involved with people who could buy and sell him 20 times a day. And that adds a tension that Ross MacDonald is good at dealing with. Very good. That element of the haves and the have-nots is also runs through a lot of Nero Wolfe novels that I have read. A lot of them. Which is something that a lot of you pointed out to me years ago. I made an offhand comment years ago in a video about detectives. I think I was doing it for March Mystery Madness. And in a video, I don't know what I was thinking. It had been too long since I read a Nero Wolfe novel. But I said that, that some detectives don't work for money, like, for instance, Nero Wolfe. And a whole bunch of you took me aside in the nice way that we have, in the good way that we have here. It took me aside and said, look, it must be a while since you read these books, because Wolfe and Archie are always worried about the bank balance. They do very much work for money. Wolfe says it in every novel. I don't know what it was that made me overlook that. I guess it's just that Wolfe has his orchids, and he has his gourmet food, and he has his brownstone that is all his. And I saw that. That was in my mind, and it had been a long time since I read the books, and I guess I just thought that equates to independent means. Definitely not true in Nero Wolfe's case, but in the Wolfe novels, almost all the time, Wolfe and Archie are dealing with all kinds of society. The lowest racketeer rats and the wealthiest of the wealthy. And the dynamic is always very interesting. I think that kind of a subject was on the minds of the mid-century crime writers. Definitely true here. A lot of this book reminded me of Over the Edge, an early, very long Alex Delaware novel by Kellerman. Maybe some of you have read Over the Edge. It's a very good Alex Delaware novel, probably the best one. And it also is about extremely neurotic, high-risk, edgy kids at risk and the families that are involved. Only here it's there's a lot more action, and there are a lot of dames. I loved it. I can't quite say that I am loving the Lou Archer novels as much as I am loving the Nero Wolfe novels, although maybe I am. They're both so excellent, and that maybe I am, just in completely different ways. And then our last book here, because we don't want to keep going here. Our last book is marketing, and I know that it's a marketing strategy. I wouldn't pay for this thing because I don't want to pay for anybody's marketing campaign. But some of you have probably seen the trailers by now. The final trailer for the Fantastic Four movie, the new Fantastic Four movie, has come out. I have the screener. I have seen the movie. Hoo boy. Putting aside anything else about the movie, the gimmick, the rug pull at the end. Anyway, I have a lot more to say on the movie. We can talk about the movie some other time. But in order to promote the movie, of course, Marvel is going to be reprinting a lot of stuff. And they also commissioned this thing. James Lovegrove. This is The Coming of Galactus, a prose novel. That's what this is, a novel about this story. So this was 3 issues of the Fantastic Four about 60 years ago, in which Galactus, the villain of the new Fantastic Four movie, sends his herald, the Silver Surfer, in the new movie it's a woman, to survey the world, to find worlds that Galactus can consume. he drains the living energy of a biosphere. And the Silver Surfer goes and finds these planets for him so that he's not searching on his own, and finds Earth, condemns Earth to die, and Galactus shows up, and the Fantastic Four have to deal with a literally unbeatable foe. And Stan Lee and Jack Kirby do a great job of it in those issues. They are indelibly impressed on the minds of any very, very old comic book fans. This is that story told in prose. I have no idea how that's going to work. Really, I don't have any idea how that's going to work. I haven't read this yet. But what's his name again? James Lovegrove. What is he going to do? Is he going to use all of the exposition boxes that Stan Lee wrote? Is he going to quote from them? Is he going to quote the dialogue? He's going to have to quote the dialogue, right? Of not only Galactus and the Silver Surfer, but the Watcher and the Fantastic Four. He can't give the characters different lines than they had in the comics. Can he? Can he add scenes? What is Marvel allowing him to do when he adapts a comic book? I guess I'll find out. I imagine, since it's Marvel Comics, that they're not giving him much of a free rein. But I don't know. I will find out and I will report back. I can't imagine. I guess what I'm trying to say is I can't imagine this being done well. You could write a prose version of this story that would be incredible to read. But you would have to do a lot of work that's not in the comics, and that Stan Lee very intentionally left out of the comics. I don't know that Marvel will let you do that. Certainly, all the other comic book prose novels that I have read, none of them have ever done anything like that, and they should. The closest I ever came to that was when Chris Claremont wrote a novelization of like the second or third X-Men movie, and he clearly was given free rein to add all sorts of things to the movie, and he did, and it turned out pretty good. It was a pretty good reading experience, but usually not. The other Fantastic Four novels that I have read, no. So we'll see. We'll see what this is. But anyway, there you go. That is a Friday Reads. And as usual with the Friday Reads, I want to know what you're reading. What are you reading? What are you liking? Have you had a good reading week? And are you anticipating a good reading week next week? So I'll wrap this up for now, and I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.